Leclerc would come on the radio and go, "What are we doing?" And they'd go, "We are checking." And now, this weekend, when they were talking about, swapping positions, there was the, "We are checking." I'm like this. I'm like, yes, we are checking. We're back. That's what we need. I love a bit of "we are checking" me. Thank you, Brian.
Hello everybody, welcome back to The Fast and the Curious, the podcast that interviews the biggest names in the sport. Take a look back at our recent chats with the mischievous duo Ollie Behrman and Kimi Antonelli if you haven't already. We also preview and debrief the races, and oh my god, what a race we have to debrief today. Miami did not disappoint at all. I'm Betty Glover. There's no Greg James today because it's a bank holiday here and he's got something that is called a life, which I don't think I have. I don't think Christian does either. Christian, you're in Miami. How is it treating you?
Betty, good morning, as it is for me. First thing in the morning, so apologies if I sound a little bit croaky. It's been a busy weekend and my voice hasn't battled through well. And I had a cold last week, so I do sound a little bit husky. Yeah,
Baby.
I know.
Got a little cold.
I know. But I am okay. I'm more than okay. I do love Miami. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll see the sea behind me from my hotel room, and it's a lovely day. And Betty, what's incredibly rare for me whilst away with Formula One is I've got a little bit of time after this recording before I have to go and get my plane. So due to the brilliant ways the planes are scheduled, they haven't been able to fly us straight back. So I might, get this right, I might even get a minute by the pool today.
Oh, living your best life. I'm jealous.
My best life, Betty Glover. I enjoyed the race, though. I thought it was absolutely thrilling, particularly like the first 2/3 of it. What did you think, Betty?
Oh my God, I loved it. The start of the race, I was like, this is absolutely epic. This is cinema, guys. You can't ask for anything better. The racing was incredible. You had Max Verstappen defending. It was electric. By the end, not as good. That's okay, though. You can't have it all. You can't have a race with drama from start to finish, can you?
No, it calmed down a little bit at the end. We will obviously discuss all the big talking points, of which there are plenty. We've not had one of our Fast and Curious listeners on for a while either. So Stevie dropped us a very interesting message. She has a particular interest in our rookies. And we'll talk a little bit about that because, don't we all? Because there might well be rookie news as well. So we'll come to that at the end. Of course, we'll also get to Ferrari because there's lots to talk about there as well, isn't there, Betty Glover?
By the way, Ferrari have absolutely stolen the show when it comes to the radio radar. I don't think we're going to get better radio radar for the rest of the season. Incredible. We'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk about, well, I guess the fact that Oscar Piastri took the title. He now leads the championship by 16 points after 6 races. Lando Norris finished second. Mr. Consistent George Russell took P3. Katie P, by the way, said on Instagram, "Go on, Oscar. Fast and Curious said it first. 2025 champion." We did, Katie. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I mean, what can you say about Oscar that's not already been said? I tell you the biggest compliment I can pay him, that I don't think actually Oscar Piastri is the biggest talking point in this race, which means we're getting used to him winning, which is fantastic for his title challenge. I just think Oscar is ludicrously impressive because a couple of people had put the points to me we're not seeing yet that he's capable of fighting for a world championship because he hasn't battled back at all. Well, guess what? He battled back. All right, it wasn't from 10th on the grid, but he did have to overcome sort of adversity. So it was just another textbook Oscar Piastri performance. He kept calm and yet in those crucial moments showed that this mild-mannered, still gentle Australian behind the wheel is an absolute bloody demon. Because when he needs to be aggressive, my goodness me, is he aggressive? And he showed it. It was just a perfectly executed race from Oscar. He had everything. The overtaking ability, the sheer speed. He got to grips well with that McLaren, which he hadn't always over the weekend. We'll come to that in a minute. It was just brilliant, Betty. He was just, this man is the title favourite by a good chunk, I would say.
Yeah, he really is. And also, I think Jenson Button said this afterwards, but nothing seems to faze him, but he's just so good as well at controlling the race when he's in front. He just knows exactly what he's doing. He's so comfortable leading the pack, isn't he?
Yeah, you often hear in Formula One a term called racecraft, and that's not necessarily an obvious term, but here's a little example of where racecraft lets you down. Kimi Antonelli on the turn one of the sprint race battled too hard and tumbled down the order. He would have been as well just to let one place go rather than several places. You could also say the same with Lando Norris, maybe in turn one in the Grand Prix. We'll come to Lando in a minute. I've got quite a lot to say on Lando. But racecraft is sort of your decision making during races, when to push hard, when to save your tyres, when to battle, when not to battle, when to let something go, when to go aggressive. Oscar seems to have that in abundance. That's the point Jensen's making with his race management. His racecraft is just fantastic. And if you go back to Oscar's second, particularly his first season, he didn't always know how to look after the tyres, when to push, when not to push, when it came to tyre management, which is such an important part of Formula One. That's just not an issue anymore. So he gets the best out of the car because he knows how to get the best out of the tyres. He's becoming, in front of our very eyes, just the complete package. And he's a lovely man. So he's supremely impressive.
And he's a lovely man.
And he's a lovely man. There's not much more to say with him. He's just supremely impressive. He has gripped the title fight hard to the extent that he is clearly the favourite, as we've sort of done the first, quarter bit of the season. He's just been, potentially, I would say, well, not potentially, I'm saying this, he's been even more impressive than I expected him to be this season, and I expected him to be impressive.
Well, he's won more Grand Prix than Lando has now.
Yeah, which is quite astonishing. And I want to talk about Lando because there's such a debate around Lando's title challenge, right? And I said after our Japan debrief, when he'd lost the race to Oscar, Miami feels like a big weekend. And I think then if you'd showed me the results, i.e. Oscar winning the Grand Prix, I'd have been like, it's another disaster for Lando. Actually, I don't think it is. I actually think Lando battled back quite well this weekend. Again, if you judge the pace of the McLarens across the weekend, across the whole weekend, Lando certainly wasn't any slower sheer pace-wise than Oscar, except for in the end of the Grand Prix when obviously there are differing circumstances because Lando's had to battle back further. But actually, take the example I'm making is, Lando had the better of Oscar in qualifying. And then say, for example, in the sprint race, he got lucky with the safety car. Of course he did, but he deserved that luck. He was the quicker McLaren at the end of the race. So actually, what I think Lando's had this weekend is one of those weekends where he's seen that Oscar can struggle with this car as well. It's a super, super quick McLaren, but she's quite hard to control sometimes. And Oscar's found that as well. So pace-wise, Lando's not been far off at all. His race was unravelled in turn one, and I think he was quite unlucky. I watched it back again this morning. I think it was bad luck. I think during the race, I thought, I don't know what you thought, Betty. During the race, I thought, you've defended way too hard, Lando, similar to Antonelli, and you've jumped back. But actually, looking back, Max didn't get off the line brilliantly well. Max did lock up. I don't think Lando could have done much more differently. I just think on a tight circuit, he fell quite unlucky. So I actually thought Lando didn't have as bad weekend as the Grand Prix finishing positions would suggest. And to me, it's encouraging for our title battle between the two. Does that make sense, Betty?
Yeah, it does. I mean, it could have easily have been worse for him, couldn't it? He could have not been able to battle back. He could have not been able to have passed Verstappen. He could have not been able to have passed George Russell. He could have not been able to have passed Kimi Antonelli. Like, it could have been bad for him, but he put on a show in that sense afterwards. I was thinking about like what you were just saying then at the beginning of the race, and afterwards Lando said, "If I don't go for it, people complain. If I do go for it, people complain."
Yeah.
Do you agree? Should he have just not gone for it at that moment? Could he have just bided his time and then done it at a better opportunity?
Well, it's so easy to say in hindsight because that was my calling of it when I watched the race first time round. I thought exactly the same. It's not like Japan where you're really going to struggle to overtake. It's tricky to overtake around Miami, but it's not impossible. So I did think, Lando, you battled too hard. You should just waited, picked your time, and then swept past, like we saw Oscar do. The problem is Max didn't get off the line spectacularly, and then he did lock a brake because he was struggling with the brakes. He said it on the team radio. He said these brakes are useless later in the race. So I actually don't think it's that cut and dry on this particular occasion to turn down and say Lando should have just let Max have turn one. I actually think it was more unlucky on a tight street, in inverted commas, circuit. I don't think it's that simple. I think Lando got a little bit unlucky into turn one in terms of just where you place your car. Not everyone can be a winner in the lottery that is the first few corners of a very tight Grand Prix. So I think Lando's done that in the past. Racecraft has not always been a Lando strength. I have huge sympathy with him on this particular turn one. And overall, his pace to me has been encouraging. And what's going to be really crucial for him, he's shown to me that he's still very capable of doing what he did in Australia, of getting out and controlling a race. The pace is there to do that. So in Imola, where it is tricky to overtake and where I think it might end up being a one-stop strategy, therefore there might not be potential for loads of movement, qualifying's massive for Lando in Imola. You've got to get ahead of Oscar, and you've got to get off the line well and control the race from there. If he can do that, he'll win plenty more Grand Prix this season, and it won't be all Oscar Piastri. But this is the thing. Oscar has proved, and we know Max is like this, the tiniest little mistake from Lando, and he's going to get punished. But actually, this weekend, I don't think it's as bad as it seems, and I think he got a bit unlucky into turn one. I've got sympathy for everything Lando says this weekend.
Yeah, because you're not really seeing those mistakes from Oscar at the moment, are you? He will just be there and capitalise on everything, apart from Australia. But
no, you're not. But then, end of the sprint race, Lando was faster. Lando qualified ahead of Oscar. So you are sometimes seeing some more sheer pace from Lando on occasion.
Also, I think there was a point when Lando was faster than Oscar during that race. They were saying that actually, he could do it. Zach Brown said, we might see an epic McLaren battle here. Now, when he said that, I thought, bloody hell, Zach, you must be sweating at the thought of that, because it could all go terribly wrong. We never saw that epic battle, but I get the sense that you believe that is gonna come.
I think I've said this before, and I'm not trying to be all sensationalist here, which I will be accused of being. I think it's inevitable that they're going to come together this season. I think it's absolutely inevitable. However, and that's just because they're racing drivers. It's because they're competitive animals. Lando and Oscar do get on. They're very respectful in the way they race. They're very respectful to the team, but I still think it's inevitable at some point. However, and we've seen it in the past. We've seen it with Hamilton and Rosberg. We've seen it with Webber and Vettel, Verstappen and Ricciardo. We've seen it so many times. History shows us. However, I think we are also getting into the phase where maybe McLaren have got such an advantage that they won't be too concerned, certainly not Constructors' Championship-wise. And yes, it's early in the season. Yes, upgrades will come. But in terms of the sheer McLaren pace this weekend, it was probably their most impressive weekend. We know they like Miami anyway. They were good round here last year after they bought upgrades. But very encouraging sheer pace-wise for McLaren. I know we're going to get onto that in a little while. But yeah, actually, if they did touch and lose each other some points at some point, well, Constructors' Championship-wise, I can't see anyone getting anywhere near them. So maybe they wouldn't need to be too worried about that.
McLaren were on an absolute... They looked like they were on another planet. They finished 30-odd seconds in front. Piastri was 37 seconds in front of George Russell. That's unbelievable.
Yeah, that is major. That has surprised me a little bit. And that's a bigger advantage than they expected to have. McLaren didn't believe they had that much of an advantage in this Grand Prix. So, yeah, supremely impressive. They are obviously overwhelming favourites from the Constructors' title. And I am... and listen, the only thing that now... I've been saying all season, don't rule out Max, but the only thing that's going to save Max now is one of the Red Bull upgrades. There have been rumours of Red Bull upgrades coming for Imola. There have been rumours for a few races now. So let's see whether that comes to fruition. And if so, how much of an impact it has. Because Max needs these if he's going to stay in this World Championship. Because even with his ludicrous, ridiculous levels of superhuman talent, even he's slipping out the championship fights. And superhuman ability to produce a superhuman. Congratulations to Max and Kelly for their little bebe.
Oh my God, that baby is gonna have the best genes in the world. Like if that baby isn't, I don't know, winning world championships in the future, then something's gone wrong because that's been born a winner.
Oh my good Lord, I'm already terrified of that baby. A Verstappen and Piquet gene baby. Unbelievable. That baby will either win Formula One World Championships or take over the world. It's quite possible. Yeah, wow. I mean, amazing. So yes, that was lovely. Absolutely lovely. I also did wonder at one point in the weekend if there was any driver that, you know what Max is like with how chilled he is with Formula One, if he would sort of go, no, I'm not going to do it this weekend. I'm having a baby, when he didn't turn up to media day on Thursday. Yeah, it's like, I can't be bothered this weekend, which would have been very peak Max. No, you're right, I'll come back next weekend. But no, I'm delighted. That's a lovely bit of news for the weekend. And the second daddy on the grid. After it's just him and Nico Hulkenberg, isn't it?
Oh,
Only a couple of daddies.
Yeah, not a lot of daddies.
not
a lot of daddies, is there?
Which I, for one, think is a shame. More daddies in Formula One, please.
I feel like you could say something overly inappropriate here, so I'm.
So many things going through my head, but fortunately, Betty, I'm an uber professional sports broadcaster who's not had an awful lot of sleep over the last weekend. So yes, let's carry on. What else should we talk about?
Couple of listener questions, by the way. Laura slid into our DMs and she said, "Why do McLaren keep saying their car isn't that much faster when it clearly is?"
Right, this is the thing. I get this a lot. Because McLaren genuinely didn't believe their car was that much faster. And in the words of Uncle Bryn from Gavin and Stacey, I shall tell you for why. The McLaren car is clearly very quick, but the reason McLaren didn't think they'd got this massive advantage over their rivals is because she's a diva, right? She is a bit of a diva.
Diva is a female version of a hustler.
Never truer words spoken. Yes. Now, when you're reaching the end of a rule set and you're pushing to get the most out of a car, you sacrifice sheer drivability for sheer speed. So McLaren knew they'd got an absolute beast, but beasts need taming. And as Lando's found, probably with a little bit more, challenge than Oscar this year, the beasts can sometimes be difficult to tame. But what McLaren will be really pleased about from the Miami weekend is not only did they manage to tame the beast in that both drivers did manage to get on top of it, but then once they'd got on top of it, the sheer gap that opened up was huge. And a little example of this is Japan. If this car was that much quicker than the Red Bull in Japan, even though it's tricky in overtaking, you would, the two McLarens maybe sweeping round into turn one in Japan before the S's, or maybe the final corner, the final little hairpinny bit, the little S bend after the long straight. McLaren would have been able to get past there, but they weren't. Max was able to win that race. Whereas in this situation, obviously it's a different track and they're able to overtake, but the gap was bigger. So McLaren have always known they've got a quicker package. What's going to really encourage them is their drivers are now more able to get on top of it. It's becoming more drivable. That's massive for McLaren. So that's why they've been saying, listen, the advantage isn't huge. They genuinely believe that, but yes, Laura is absolutely right. Going forward, it will be like, you've shown that gap is really, really there. And there were hints of it in Australia too, in the drier moments. So, as I say, really encouraging for McLaren.
Quite a big gap now, guys. You know what? I think you've got to admit it. You've got a very fast car. Let's move on and talk about one of my highlights of the race. And I feel like this is what everybody is talking about at the moment. It's got to be Ferrari's team orders drama. It has provided some excellent Betty's Radio Radar content, by the way. Hamilton's radio was absolute pure gold. And as the race went on, he was just getting more and more sassy.
Yeah, it was brilliant. And Ferrari have got Radio Gold a lot. Betty, you weren't on the debrief of the last Grand Prix, but me and Bella loved, thank you, Brian, from Charles Leclerc. So thank you, Brian, we've now got more Radio Gold because Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc in 7th and 8th. Hamilton clearly getting very frustrated, suggesting he should be allowed to move ahead of Leclerc. And then they said the thing that I just love. Now, this, if you're brand new to Formula One, couple of seasons ago, Ferrari had a bit of a reputation for ballsing up strategy, and Leclerc would come
All
on
the
the
time.
radio and they'd, and Leclerc would come on the radio and go, what are we doing? And they'd go, we are checking. And now, this weekend, when they were talking about, swapping positions, there was the, we are checking. I'm like this. I'm like, yes, we are checking. We're back. That's what we need. I love a bit of we are checking, me. Thank you, Brian.
One of those, though, when like you can just imagine Hamilton's mental state. Like he's getting more and more frustrated, and they say we are checking, and he's probably thinking, "Hey guys, I don't want you to check. Tell me what we're doing." So anyway, here's the gold. Hamilton said, "In China, I got out of the way." They said, "Understood. We swapped the cars." Hamilton said, "Have a tea break while you're at it. Come on." Couldn't be any more British.
Yeah, it's normally George being the uber British one. We fancy a cup of tea, old fellow.
And someone someone obviously went online, I don't know, one of those photo editing things that people do, and they had a picture of the Ferrari mechanics all sat there sipping tea, and it just absolutely made me die. It was so good. The next one was my absolute favourite though. They said Sainz 1.4 behind. Hamilton said, "You want me to let him pass as well?"
I do like that. It's just so sassy from Lewis.
So
his sass levels on the radio this year have stepped up so much. It's just like, it's like Miranda Priestley in The Devil Wears Prada. It's just...
That was a niche reference. Very campy.
I'm sorry, but within my friends, The Devil Wears Prada is not a niche reference, I can assure you. Yeah, I'm now envisaging Hamilton as Miranda Priestley in the car. Please, everybody, move at a glacial pace. You know how it thrills me.
So good. But I love how he's driving at that speed. He's in the middle of a Grand Prix and he's still finding the time to be sarcastic.
Yeah.
That's so British. You don't get any more British. Sarcasm at its absolute finest.
Yeah, but then, what I did like from Lewis, actually, is after the race, he said, look, I'm not going to apologise for it. I'm a fighter, and I've still got the fire in my belly. And I really did like that from Lewis. He's absolutely right. That said, I am worried about Ferrari.
The whole thing was a little bit of a show, wasn't it? But do you think half the issue is Hamilton needs to sort of learn to trust the team, and it's getting that? Because before, when they've been a little bit snappy with each other, we've gone, well, they're just learning to sort of communicate with each other and learning how each other work. We're like, what is it, 6 Grand Prix in now?
Right. Yeah. Okay. This all feeds into a bigger thing with Ferrari for me. Betty, to answer your question directly, he's got to learn to trust the team. Well, he doesn't trust the team, and I don't trust the team. So that's an issue. Someone on Instagram said in the team, no,
he's got no chance.
Well, quite, yeah. Someone on Instagram said, should we be worried about Hamilton's relationship with his race engineer and Ferrari's whole strategy? I'm just going to widen that out for this point. We should be worried about Ferrari, full stop. I mentioned earlier that they had this reputation for being a bit shambolic, and that goes back years to when Vettel was driving the car, and at one point they had the quickest car to win the World Championship and didn't. It goes back to when they had Fernando Alonso and they weren't able to give him the quickest package. Ferrari for years and years and years have struggled. And by the way, while I'm talking about this, Nate Saunders, Formula One journalist for ESPN, has written a brilliant book about Ferrari and all of this. Couldn't recommend it enough. It digs into all of this detail about Ferrari. I'd like to get Nate on the podcast at some point. But then all of that changed when Fred came in, because Fred did seem to have a really positive impact. And it's like, okay, Ferrari are moving forward nicely. But then look at this season, right? We're at the end of a rule set where we're told everybody should condense, where we're told, the top 4 should have a chance of winning the races, Mercedes are showing good pace. I think they'll win a couple of races this season. We'll get onto them in a minute. But Ferrari have gone backwards. They're further away from winning races than they were last year. We've got a team in Williams who, are so eager to point out that they are focusing on 2026 that when James Vowles is offered breakfast, he says, I'm focusing on 2026 as breakfast at the moment. Thank you very much. All they talk about is 2026, and they are improving at a higher rate with the greatest of respect to Williams, a team that's
brilliant.
got considerably less resource. There, at points this weekend, that Williams has been an overall quicker package than a Ferrari. Who knew Carlos Sainz was getting an upgrade? Can you believe it? So
you'd rather be a Williams fan at the moment than a Ferrari fan.
Oh my lord, yeah. You'd rather be a Leicester City fan than a Ferrari fan, and that's saying something. My
No,
Christ.
I don't think
No,
you're
okay,
okay.
fine. I've been silly, and that was a point too far. I'd like to apologise. Anyway, the point I'm making is Ferrari seem to be actively going backwards. This whole thing of Ferrari are improving slowly but surely. What's happened is the car and the package is going backwards. That is worrying. Yes, there's a rule change next year. Still, this is a competitive outfit in Formula One. You don't want to see them going backwards. And then what we've also got is, all right, Lewis Hamilton in previous races hasn't been as quick as Charles Leclerc. Problem. Well, now we've seen another problem because this weekend, Lewis's pace overall across all the sessions wasn't actually far off Charles. Lewis drove brilliantly and mastered the wet conditions as you'd expect him to well in the sprint race. In the race, obviously, the fact they were bickering shows how close the pace was. But that creates a whole other problem because then you seem to have two alpha males in the relationship, neither of which are willing to go, all right, yeah, let's back down here a little bit. They just seem to be bickering. And this is when they're fighting for 7th and 8th. Imagine what those two are going to be like when they're battling for the podium. To me, yes, they will say, oh, it's the heat of the battle on the radio, etc., etc. But I'm a bit worried about that driver dynamic at Ferrari. So the question on Instagram, should we be worried about Hamilton's race engineer relationship? I mean, yeah, it doesn't seem that healthy, does it? Should we be worried about Ferrari going backwards? Yes. Do Leclerc and Hamilton, is that really compatible? Oh, goodness knows. I think there's a lot to worry about at Ferrari. Plus, their special livery was a disgrace to special liveries. An absolute disgrace. Do not come out with me and stick a blue rear wing thingy on it and say, yeah, that's a special livery. No, it's not. You just painted a chunk blue. Get out.
On that point, though, I remember speaking to Andrew Benson at the beginning of the season, and I said...
was wearing a fabulous hat this weekend in Miami.
And for those that don't know, he's the BBC's F1 correspondent.
Loves a hat.
He loves a hat. I said to Andrew, I was like, God, that dynamic between, the McLaren drivers, how's that going to work? How's that going to be managed? And he said, I don't think that's going to be a massive problem. He was I think the thing that you need to be looking at and thinking about is the dynamic between the Ferrari drivers, because that's going to be interesting. And do Ferrari as a team have what it takes to be able to manage that relationship? And that is
Benson's
all now playing out, isn't it?
Benson has... I mean, Andrew Benson's just a godlike figure anyway. So, yeah, of course he's called it. But that is spot on mystic megging from Andrew Benson there. That is he's nailed it. That's exactly what we're seeing playing out in front of us. It's really, really worrying times for Ferrari. And going into a home Grand Prix in Italy in a couple of weekends' time, you need to sort yourself out, lads. That seems a real tricky one for me. And for God's sake, take that blue off the car. Good Lord.
Big time. Milo, Amy and Haley said, what should Ferrari have done with Charles and Lewis in regards to the swapping? Which I do think is an interesting question, because did they get it wrong? Or was Lewis overreacting? Or were they not stern enough?
I don't think they were stern enough, because actually I don't think either of them had the pace to move forward. Both are saying, I've got more pace. All right, let's try it. And that was
evident.
Yeah, neither of them really showed they'd got more pace. So I think it's tricky when you're on the radio going, all right, we'll check and this and that. I just think they needed to make a decision and go, no, we're going to stick, because the swapping then costs you time. Yeah. I don't think either of them had the pace. Just make a decision with one of them. I don't think they handled that very well at all. Now, it's easy to say in hindsight. I don't like doing this on the pod of going, they should have handled this in race situation like this, because hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I just don't think, to me, it was obvious that neither had the pace to move forwards. So I just don't think anything they were going to do was going to make them have the pace. That goes back to what I was saying before, that the overall package isn't good enough.
Jordan says, is Lewis making the team worse, or is the team letting him down? Which I guess you sort of kind of answered, because it's the team just isn't... It's worrying.
Unfortunately, Jordan, I don't think it's that simple. I don't think that question, you could quite put it that way. It's a great question, but the team is letting him down because he, moved because he wanted a better package than the Mercedes. Well, the Mercedes is the better package by a mile, so the team definitely is letting him down. Is Lewis making the team worse? I highly doubt he is. He's great, his feedback and that sort of thing. I don't think he's going to be making the team worse, but whether that dynamic is helping the team is a different question entirely.
I do think, though, once things have settled down, once that relationship is better, things will look up. And Ferrari have got two amazing drivers. Everyone talks about the fact that McLaren have got the two best drivers on the grid in their team, and in terms of, obviously you've got Verstappen, but those two McLaren drivers are two of the best. But look at that that Ferrari lineup as well.
But I'm not seeing any evidence for what you've just said. I've zero faith in that. I don't
really.
Whereas what have we seen other than a sprint race good performance from Lewis, and Charles has had a couple of good drives. He battled for a podium the other week, fine. Other than some good individual drives from the drivers, from a team perspective, they're showing nothing to me that makes me think they can fix this.
That is incredibly depressing for Ferrari fans. But Ferrari fans, at least you've got good radio entertainment. That's something to be positive about. Christian, you're out there at the Miami Grand Prix. We can see the blue sky behind you, the sunshine. I think that's the beach or the sea, is it?
It is the sea. The sea is behind me. I'm a lucky boy with Miami. I love the Miami Grand Prix. And my next one is Monaco, Betty.
I am so jealous. By the way, I was jealous about Miami because I'd love to go to Miami. Monaco, I think as a spectator, as a fan, to be there, that's got to be one of the best, hasn't it?
Well, yeah. And obviously, we've said this on the pod before, but I am so lucky because I present a podcast for Formula One, so they take me to Grand Prix. The thing everybody says about Monaco is it is in the best possible way complete chaos, because the whole of the massive F1 circus descends on a marina and there's so much chaos. And I think it would intimidate me as a fan to go without the people who helped me get here and book my flights for me. Thank goodness they do. But if you wanted to go to Monaco, which you still could, imagine you're like, actually, I don't have anything on in a couple of weekends' time and I do fancy treating myself. Oh. Our friends at Gulliver's Travel, who are brilliant, can sort out this whole thing for you. And if you were going to do it, my goodness me, Monaco would be the one to do it.
Yeah, look, they offer these packages. So you do not need to sort out a single thing, guys. If you're not very organised, if you're an unorganised queen or king like I am, this is what you need. It's incredible. They offer fully escorted F1 tour packages. They include hotel options, a range of tickets from general admission, grandstand, hospitality. They have all of the travel options that you could possibly wish for, including transfers, and you could get a private charter flight to Monaco if that's what you want to do. So fans can travel alongside fellow Formula One fans. So I mean,
imagine that plane; it'd be amazing.
Geek out, can't you? And you can also have a dedicated tour manager throughout the trip to basically ensure that everything runs really smoothly. So what we're saying is, go with Gulliver's Travel, and you won't have to worry about a single thing. Enjoy it.
Yeah, and by the way, I appreciate that Monaco is not, too far away. If you're thinking later in the year, still worth checking out Gulliver's. It's a great way of going to a Grand Prix because there's a lot to think about in terms of, right, I've got to book my plane to get there if I'm doing a foreign race. Then I've got to find my way to the airport, find somewhere to stay. It's it's a lot if you're busy. So it's not just Monaco. There's lots of races that they, do travel packages for the rest of the season as well. So check them out. The link you need to check it out is in the description of this episode, wherever you're listening or if you're watching on YouTube, it's in the description of this episode. Get in touch with the team. They're absolutely lovely, and tell them the Fast and the Curious sent you, because it's a fantastic way of going to watch a Grand Prix. I've seen a lot of these things that plan it. Gulliver's by far the best. It's absolutely brilliant the way they sort everything out for you. So yeah, Gulliver's Travel, link is in the description of this episode. Something that's also integral to this episode, Betty, is my cubbyhole.
Oof. I don't like the sound of your cubbyhole. I wouldn't want to go in your cubbyhole.
Rude. Absolutely rude.
No, but what is in your cubbyhole today? Because is it Williams by any chance? Because I know that you are incredibly impressed with them.
I'm just so impressed with Williams. Because they... hang on. Tell you what. I'm so impressed with Williams. Stay there.
He's taking his headphones off. He's running into his... Oh, I've just realised he is on the balcony. Airy, breezy. Don't you just love it? Oh, that was very yellow, isn't it?
It's very yellow. Williams gave me a yellow hat. Look at that, look. If you're watching on YouTube, it's a yellow hat with blue writing. Stunning.
I don't know if I like it.
Don't be hot if I love
it. I know, but I don't know. I don't know if I like it or I love it.
Okay.
I don't know if it's giving me IKEA flat pack furniture,
Bit rude.
IKEA vibes,
Still
or
got the
whether
labelling.
it's giving me Miami sunshine.
Yeah, if you're wearing it in the
Williams
sun, if you're
racing.
wearing it in the sun on the beach, it gives you pro summer vibes. I love it. So yeah, thank you to Williams for the hat that they gave me to add to my collection of hats. I
Excellent.
love Team Williams.
But they have been ridiculously impressive, haven't they? And it feels like Carlos Sainz is starting to get to grips with everything as well, doesn't it?
Oh yeah, Carlos has been fantastic in the last couple of weekends, pace-wise, particularly in qualifying. Alex, just his sheer ability to grind out race results is absolutely ridiculous. And were it not for an unfortunate penalty in the sprint, he'd have had more points. The thing is with Williams, right, is what they've been able to do in like last season is grind out a point, for example, if they, Alex dragged the car up into Q3, then they had a fantastic strategy. They had to sort of squeeze every drop out of it to get a point. They're up there on pace. They're up there on pace.
It's a fast one.
It's a fast one. Alex Albon beat Antonelli in a Mercedes, Leclerc and Hamilton in the Ferrari, and Tsunoda in a Red Bull. Like, it's absolutely stunning. They are just doing brilliantly this season. So they're in my cubbyhole. Alex Albon is just excelling this season. People thought, will he struggle against Carlos Sainz? Carlos is doing well and will continue to get better as he settles in. Not worried about Carlos at all. But Alex is being sensational. And I tell you what, Betty, if you've gone to Williams because Carlos has looked at the grid and gone, where am I going to win world championships? This sums up why he thinks Williams are capable of climbing up, because the recovery job that they are doing is sensational. And who would bet against them at this form when the rules have changed, battling for podiums? Like, McLaren have risen up. Why can't Williams?
James Vowles is rubbing his hands together, isn't he? He's thinking 2026, here we bloody come, lads.
He's doing a great job. And Betty, exclusive news. I did pop into Williams at the end of the race yesterday, just to say hello, because I'm a sociable person. A, they gave me a hat, and B, potential Albon podcast incoming.
Love it.
So a potential Albon return to talk about being brilliant.
He is always my favourite to interview because you just do not know what he's going to bloody say.
So
what is going to come out of his mouth?
If you're new to us, hit subscribe, follow, like whatever it is on your podcast provider, and you'll know when we speak to Alex Albon, because that will. And we've got other drivers coming as well. It's been a productive weekend, the Fast and Curious driver negotiations, I can assure you. So
he's been on it.
He's been on it. So yes, well done to Williams. They've been absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, brilliant. And also we can find out how all of his 95 million pets are doing.
Just before we go, we do like to talk to our listeners on the Fast and the Curious. We've not done it for a little while, and someone who slid into our DMs is one of our listeners, Stevie, who said, hey guys, I've got a particular interest in the rookies and wondered if I could come on to have a chat about those rookies. And we're calling it Stevie's Rookie Watch. We agreed with Stevie that it was a good point to go, let's have a little bit of a assessment of the rookies, if you will. So let's say hello to Fast and Curious listener Stevie. Stevie, hello. Good morning from where I am. Good afternoon where you are. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
Yeah,
Stevie!
I'm well, thanks, Stevie. Hey, Stevie. Stevie, a question for you. What is it about the rookies that particularly interest you? Because you were very rookie-focused in your message you sent us.
I think it's just the fact that there's such a jump between the junior categories and F1. So seeing how the drivers adapt to the challenges of F1, both on and off the track, watching them progress. I mean, we've seen even Oscar in the last sort of 3 years, just how much he's leveled up. So I think it's so interesting to kind of see as these drivers have their first season in F1, just where they start from and how they progress.
Who's your favourite rookie, Stevie?
Oh, do you know what? It's got to be Kimi Antonelli. He's just got the charm, he's got the talent, he's got the sass.
The fashion sense.
Yeah, and Stevie, how impressed with Kimi Antonelli have you been this weekend? Because I said on TikTok that his sprint pole, which was just a mega lap, to me was the first moment of, this kid's really good. And for the start of the weekend, like he was quicker than George for the start of the weekend. His races didn't pan out as much as well as he'd have hoped, but some impressive pace from him this weekend, right, Stevie?
Oh, super impressive. I mean, who would have thought that, Kimi would be beating the McLarens, beating George, beating Max? The fact they put it on pole is super impressive. And I think these are the kind of drives that everyone's been hoping and expecting to see from Kimi, with him kind of coming into this year being hailed as this generational talent, this potential kind of Max Verstappen, Lewis Hamilton-esque sort of driver. And I think this is what we've all been waiting to see from Kimi.
The amount of pressure that is on his shoulders is unbelievable, isn't it? Because he's been billed as like the next Max Verstappen, hasn't he? In terms of like the way that he can drive and his potential. He just seems to be thriving in that. It just doesn't seem to be bothering him at all.
Yeah, and he just seems to be loving life, kind of just, taking it all on the chin, doing his thing, just week in, week out, putting in some super strong performances, right from the get-go in Australia with putting in that P4 on debut.
Stevie, what I want to do, right? Kimi mentioned to us that he's still doing his schoolwork. Mm-hmm. So I want you to grade these rookies with a school grade. We're going to do this quick fire, okay?
Okay.
Right. So we're going to start. Gabriel Bortoletto at Sauber. School grade, Stevie, please.
Oh, we're going B+. A few solid performances.
B+?
Yeah. He's out-qualified Nico a couple times. Shown he's got some pace. I mean, he is in a Sauber, so I'll give him that.
Yeah, fair.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. He's doing everything he could. He's doing everything he can in an uncompetitive car, showing the flashes of pace. I agree with you. Tricky one, Stevie. Quickly, if you can. Liam Lawson.
Oh, Liam's a very tricky one. I'm going to give him a C+. I think it was a very tricky start to the season. I think Australia did not go so well, and I think this week out in Miami, he showed what we were expecting to see. I think with finishing P7 on track, had a great race, but then I think we're still seeing him adjust to being back at RB. Still a few incidents and scraps, but I think there's room to progress. But yeah, he's doing well after a tricky start to the season.
We've spoken about him a lot. So one word grade from you, Stevie. Ollie Behrman.
Oh, B-.
B-, yeah, fair. Tricky today with an engine failure. And he's struggling in qualifying. That's where Ollie needs to pick up. Race pace is there. He just needs to get a little bit of a grip of it over one lap. I'm sure that will come in time. Kimi Antonelli.
Got to be A+. He's doing everything he needs to do. I don't really think we can expect him to have done any more.
Isaac Hadger.
A-. I think Isaac's actually over-delivered. Rookie start in Australia, but I think since then got some solid points. Not putting too many feet wrong. Doing well.
You're a very nice teacher, Stevie.
Yes. Also, I'm quite convinced a Formula One pundit. Like I'm quite convinced you could stick Stevie on Sky next to Jensen and this is great punditry from Stevie. And just finally, Stevie, on the rookies, Jack Doohan.
Oh, I'm going C-. I think he's shown some glimpses of some good performances, but I think he's just too many scraps. I think too many errors at the moment. I think if he irons those out, I think he can be onto something. But yeah, I think just a few too many scraps and rookie mistakes coming through.
And I'm worried about Jack Doohan. It might be that by the time this podcast is released to the world,
oh no,
that decision's been made. There were paddock rumours on Sunday evening that I was hearing as I was leaving the circuit that might be Jack's last race. Now, this, as we're recording the podcast, is unconfirmed. It might be that decision hasn't been made. It might be that decision is still being thought about. But yeah, that I think is a realistic possibility that was Jack Doohan's last race.
To bring in Franco Colapinto, do you think?
Yes, I know that would be the driver who would get the seat. Jack has shown at times flashes of pace, as Stevie rightly says. There have also been some big mistake moments. And what will worry Alpine more than the big mistake moments is weekends like the one we just had. Sorry, I'm quite tired, so forgive me if I've got this wrong, but I think it was Jeddah. And also this weekend where the pace was just not there. And you're in a situation like we saw at Williams where it only looks like one driver can get in the points. We're going to discuss this plenty more on the next episode of The Fast and the Curious. But I, as we're recording this, would be surprised if we see Jack in that car in Imola. I, for Jack's sake, do actually hope I'm wrong. I like Jack.
Yeah, I hope you're wrong.
Yeah, but that was what was being talked about in the paddock as I left yesterday evening. Stevie, been a pleasure to talk to you. Keep up with the rookies, and we may well check in with you on those rookies, with your teaching grades a little bit later in the season. Thanks, Stevie.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Stevie. Can I just say, by the way, apparently Alpine have got 30% off on Jack Doohan merch. Is that a sign?
Oh, God. Yeah. That doesn't look great, does it?
It doesn't look great, does it?
Doesn't look great. Anyway, thanks, Stevie.
Anyway, bye, Stevie. Thank you.
Bye, guys.
One thing before we go, Christian, that we haven't actually talked about yet is the Lego cars. Because Jesus Christ, this is a serious sport, guys. I love it.
You know what was lovely? I was watching that from the F1 office, and like all the people who are in that office, like us, work with the drivers a lot, right? Look at my flap of my Williams cap just blowing in the breeze behind me. Excellent, because I've not taken the label off. That's good.
Enjoy your flap. Come on.
Thank you. And everyone was saying, oh my God, it's so nice to see them having the best time. Like the smile on their faces. They are just big kids. They were just having the best time playing in their toy cars because they are big kids. Well, I mean, in Kimmy and Ollie's case, they're actual kids. But it was just lovely. And actually, right, credit to whoever idea that was. Credit to Lego. And I love the Miami Grand Prix. It's really one of my favourites. I did a lot out with the fans at the weekend, did a live podcast show, and everyone's having a lovely time. Like, it's a really cool place to go and watch a Grand Prix around the stadium. They really try hard with stuff like that, Betty, like the Lego stuff, just to make things a bit different, a bit fun. And actually, last 2 years in a row, there've been doubts over the track in recent years, but the last 2 years, the track's produced great racing. So love that Lego thing happened. Love the sense of fun Miami brings. I just think it was, I love that. We should have fun. It's a silly thing.
We should have fun. But also, can we just give a shout out to the people that had to build those cars? Because people had to build them. 22,000 hours they took building those cars. 400,000 pieces.
And of course, the drivers immediately broke them. George Russell broke his phone. Did you see this?
No.
Yeah, George's phone cracked because I don't know whether he dropped it or whatever he did, but because they were banging wheels, because they're big kids, because of course they were. Yeah. George's, there's a video on F1's TikTok of the damage to the cars, but then George posted about the damage to his phone. He can afford a new one, can't he? It's not the end of the world. But I loved the Lego thing. It was great. Well done, everybody.
It was brilliant. All the drivers looked so much happier driving Lego cars than normal cars, didn't they? Lewis Hamilton, biggest smile on his face.
What a man. What a man. What a man.
I
like the Miami Grand Prix.
Yeah, it's all right, isn't it? Thank you so much, Christian. We'll let you go to the beach or the pool or whatever you're going to do. Thank you, everybody, for listening and watching the Fast and the Curious podcast. Please subscribe. Don't forget to do that. Leave reviews. Do all of that stuff. And also, if you've got any questions for us, let us know at Fast Curious Pod. We will do our very best to answer them.
Yeah, now the next time you should be hearing from us is to preview the Imola Grand Prix, but it's especially important you hit subscribe, because only once this season, where we've supposed to had the break in between races, have we actually successfully had the break. Because if there's breaking news in the world of Formula One, we will be here. And as what happened with Kimi Antonelli early in the season, if one of our friends at the team says, got this driver for 10 minutes, we'll be back then. So it's important.
We'll be doing it.
Yeah, we'll be there. So the old-fashioned television listings that you used to buy your nan to flick through at Christmas to see what's on shows us as being back before Imola. But there might be a change to your advertised listings, and we might pop up sooner than that. So make sure you hit subscribe.
Yeah, basically, guys, you just got to be ready for any opportunity. We might pop up with a driver. We might not, though. So we keep you on your toes. Thank you so much for listening and watching. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye.
Goodbye.